Okay, welcome everybody to Reporters Investors Discovery Day live stream, February 26th, 2021. We got an exciting day for you today. We got three exciting companies. First one, of course, is Relay Medical. Some exciting news. We're going to get into for anybody that's new to our program. Our goal is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. So these are companies going after multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. There's multiple catalysts in place to create that shareholder value, and they're at a key inflection point in their growth. We've seen a number of some significant winners, stocks that are 10x, 20x. Even recently, we had one that was up 5,000%, a 50x from its introduction at a nickel to 250 just recently. So we've had a bunch of winners, and we're going to find out, for Relay Medical, it's a company we just recently introduced. This is going to be that next 10 bagger plus. So Clark, welcome to the program again. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So Clark, obviously the idea is our audience they want to know is can Relay be that 10 bagger? So you had some very exciting news this week with the airport, the COVID testing. Before we get into that, we do have a lot of new people. So just give us a snapshot. What does Relay Medical do?
Sure, happy to do so. Relay Medical, we're a medical technology development firm, and we specialize in what you can call diagnostic devices, point of care based diagnostic devices. So we're really looking at taking scientifically validated technologies, analyses, bringing them to point of care. So you're taking testing out of a lab and you're bringing it out into point of care. It's about generating data. It's about improving efficiencies, and that's really from a holistic sense what we do. We found ourselves now with the last year, we've been developing the last couple of years. We're developing a solution to track the adherence to medications, prescription medications. Huge problem, enormous market. It's something we haven't been talking about because the COVID stuff has been very hot, and we've obviously we have a finite amount of resources and time in a day, and we're moving that ahead very fast. But that's really what got us here. Is we have a full shop. Here we are. We're actually close to the Toronto airport. We got a 6,000 lab and office, 6,000 square feet lab and office facility here. We've had for a few years. We do all of our development on site and then with external contractors. And we're really focusing on technologies that are infinitely scalable, that provide data that will allow people to make better people in healthcare systems, governments, groups, corporations, better decisions about how they manage their healthcare, and put that data that we generate by providing these testing solutions to work and to use for their business.
Okay, so actually, we're going to get into we're going to get into audience questions, because that's what this is really about, is the audience. So of course, we do have some fans of Superman already, so that, it's good for the stock.
It's a good thing.
And he's got a great question, which the first question I always ask, and is really strictly a pandemic play. Where does it fit after cases go down? So, first we're going to talk about the airport deal, which is, very, very important. But then I want to ask you about, hey, what else do you have? What else do you have? Because essentially you have a technology platform, which is, the other stuff to me is actually even more impressive. But I think what you're doing now with the infectious disease testing, that has infinite legs. So let's talk about this deal with the airport. What this was just announced the other day. I know the stock was halted for like almost a whole day. So I guess it was pending the news. So tell us, what is this news all about? What does it mean?
Yeah. So we now have we've announced that we're deploying with Pearson Airport, which is the largest airport in Canada. Not far from here, as they say, international airport. 50 million people per year traveling through that airport pre-COVID, and of course, like everywhere around the world, there's some issues there. You can't allow travel. You got to test. You got to screen, and the solutions that have been in the market the last little bit that we've all heard of. Some public companies have been, opportunistically adjusting themselves to that space. And the fact of the matter is, PCR testing doesn't scale to what you need to. And the airport and airports around the world need to build the infrastructure to test thousands of people a day, and do it on site. It's very difficult to build a system of travel and a business where people are getting on a plane together. You've got a couple hundred people on a plane for 6-7 hours or longer in cases. And if they have a test from 2 days earlier, it really doesn't matter. You really could be sitting there with the virus active in the plane. And so you see governments around the world, you see healthcare organizations saying, look, we don't want to let you get on a plane without having a negative test. And the other side doesn't want to let you get off a plane without you having a negative test. We happen to have a solution that, as we discussed before, has been proven in testing, instantly testing large amounts of people for infectious disease. We're now deploying that at the airport. And we're also the system that the other testing solutions and other infrastructure that's required to essentially have a lab in an airport, which is not a traditionally medical place, to have a system where you can manage high volume testing, test your employees, test the people that are traveling, get those results instantly, make sure those results are communicated to the government, whatever the reporting requirements are. And we're happy enough to play a role in doing that for to facilitate that system, make sure that things line up, make sure the data is safe, provide that back, and it's a very lucrative business for us. And it's something that we've already launched, we've already scaled, and now this is just the first announcement we've had with a big validator.
Okay, so before we get into the details of the contract, the upside revenue potential, can you just explain the technology? How does it work just like in a nutshell? What do you do different than everybody else out there?
I can do it very quickly.
Why did the airport choose to go with what you're doing?
Absolutely. So I can do it very quickly. These tests here, that's an RDT. It's a lateral flow test. Operates just like a pregnancy test. You put a piece of biological matter, swab of the mouth, nasal passage, blood if you're doing antibodies or other tests. And this test, this static test, this very simple looking little test, you wait a prescribed amount of time, 8 minutes to 15 minutes, and this test is going to tell you whether or not you're negative or positive. And these tests, this is a COVID test, but there are many tests on the market just like this, virtually identical, same housing, same function for Ebola, malaria, listeria, all these type of things. The issue with a test like this, and I should have more here to show you, but they all look the same. They're all very similar. The issue is you're relying on humans to interpret the test, to conduct the test under duress, under stress. If you're thinking, we're talking about an airport which will be organized. You have people booking in, you know who they are, you know where they're from, you know where they live, you know they're citizens of whichever country they are. You've got their data. But you think of other places where you're testing, where you're doing mass testing, and you've got people PPE'd up, running these tests. You got to be careful that you're not cross-contaminating one biological sample from another. You're taking a nasal swab, you're putting on here, then you're sticking it down, and you're running a bunch of these, and they have to sit for a prescribed amount of time. They have to be checked for errors. You have to make sure you deposit the right amount of solution on it, all of these things. Because of all these things that come into play when you're doing this mass community-based screening or testing, they're prone to high error. And in the medical field, it's well respected or known that it's about 10%, 8 to 10%, which is like 1 of every 10 tests could have a problem because the person who's interpreting it may make a mistake. They may not deposit enough of a sample. They may have waited too long or too short of time to make their diagnosis of the test or interpret the test. And so you have these issues. What we have is our solution. This is the DECI reader. We have a software and a hardware solution. This DECI reader was developed originally to be deployed in the places around the world that suffer from brutal infectious disease, much worse than what we're talking about with COVID, much more infectious, much more fatal, and much more sensitive, obviously, when you're dealing, especially in these countries that do not have the infrastructure. This was developed to basically be the lab that wraps around whatever test you're doing in the field, and it provides that lab quality testing result. Reduce of errors. Reporting is done. You've got instant data capture. All these things, connectivity, cloud.
So Clark, so I think one of the unique things is that when the test goes into this device, then you have that connectivity, which sends that data to whoever needs to get it, and then they're able to use that, because I mean they can track outbreaks of diseases, they can track, who got the test. I mean, all this, I mean, which is, I mean, the most important thing. It's not so much a test; it's about who knows the results of the test.
100%.
That's really what. So this is basically.
So you're answering the question, Jack. You're answering the question. You say, why does the airport choose us? Why are we doing it? Because we've done it before. Because we have a mature solution. Because we are not an opportunistic adopter of, putting out a press release that we're going to try and adopt something that doesn't work to COVID to increase some investment interest or whatever. We're not. We're the bricks and mortar meat and potatoes company that has a technology that's proven, scientifically validated. We're financed, we're capitalized, we have the right people on board. We have a great track record for deployment, and that's why they're dealing with us. We've been a medical company, a diagnostic company for the last 5-6 years since the company was created. This is what we do. This is where we're rooted, and so we're a solution that they can trust. And I think that's shown by the engagement that we're talking about now.
Okay, so with that said, let's answer this question we have, which is the most important. So the details of the details. How much? How much you're going to make on this? And then follow up. What else?
Yeah, of course. So we can start. I mean, obviously there are certain things that I can and can't say. As in the press release, this launch is actually the product of support from the federal government. Obviously, you can't be operating in an airport talking about medical testing without support from the municipal, provincial, and federal government, which we have, which is outlined in that PR. So you can see that this deployment is large. As they say, it's not just a matter of doing a test here or there. We are the platform that we're running the PCR testing on, that we're gathering the data on. So our deal is not a flash in the pan kind of plan. It is about scaling up, and it is about proving that this solution can provide the airport with something that is what I would say personally the only solution for getting travel back to what would resemble a natural course of business.
Yeah, they have to get it back. It's already people are getting it's they can only.
So we're paid on a per test basis, and that's not just the tests that we run on our devices. It's the data, the test that's being done on our system. That's how our business model works. And the pricing depends on what all is included. Are they taking advantage of the device? Is it just the software? Is it the infrastructure? What are we doing? I can say that the more volume, the more money we make, of course, and that the expectation is, unless there's something that we're missing, it's going to be a while until you can get on a plane without a test. And the governments and the airports and these international airports around the world know this. They're very aware. These are businesses. They need to get people back to traveling. And for the cost of, with us, with a test, if you're running an RDT test, and these tests, obviously they're manufactured to be cheaply produced and available in bulk. You add this test, our system, and you can be testing passengers for less than $10 on a flight. This is a rounding error when you're talking about paying for a flight. It's a very, very low cost solution, and you got to remember the connectivity between airports allows for, if you have a device that can connect the data, you're only doing one test. So, we envision a situation where you're tested, you're at Pearson, you test negative there, you fly into New York, into LaGuardia, wherever you do, you get out and you go to a baseball game or you go to a basketball game. And if we get to a place with these infrastructures where they will recognize these tests, there's no reason that person can't use the same test they had at the airport on their phone to walk into the arena later on that day. The same thing goes for if you got a connecting flight, if you're flying out, you've got a negative test that is attached to your passport, it's attached by QR to your traveling, and you're flying into other places. Now that other airport knows that you're coming in clean. They don't have to test you again. They have that data. This is an infrastructure play. And Jack, I hit this before with you, but I'll tell you, you got to drive it home. You got to really consider this. And it's sad in a lot of ways, but it is what the world that we're living in post-COVID. This is a 9/11 type event where after September 11th, the whole world changed, and especially us in North America here, in what our expectations are around sharing our data, around participating in enhanced screening procedures. And we're glad to do it because we don't want to get on a plane and have an issue. We want to travel. We want to know we can take our family with us. We want to know that we don't have to worry about these things. This is where we are now. And the expectation of everyone, of the traveler, of the passenger, of the customer, of the employees of the airport, is that we are going to be safe by testing, and we are going to be okay with doing this and doing it as paying for it if it means we can get back to our normal life. And the guidance, which you can Google from the federal government, governments around the world, is this is not a flash in the pan. A vaccine is not a silver bullet, nor are we. There are no silver bullets. This is a change in infrastructure. We are positioning ourselves to be what we believe will be the standard, or part of the standard of how this is going to work in the future. And we'll be testing for influenza A and B and H1N1 and COVID-20 and COVID-21 as it comes. This is an infrastructure play. It's not a COVID play.
By the way, also, so we got an interesting comment here that they developed. So this was developed. Your technology was developed pre-COVID for infectious outbreaks. You had malaria, Ebola. I mean, everything.
That's right.
So this is something. Once I think, look, once this gets into airports, they're gonna keep using this. I mean, this is gonna be something like a technology they're gonna want to keep around. It's something which is once it becomes like a standard, it's.
Look, once you have that infrastructure, the cost actually, especially because we're already scalable, the cost is we'll give you the device. You leave the device in the airport. We want to charge per test. When you use it, we get charged. So we're happy to provide that infrastructure to you. And as I say, when these things look, let's talk about the media. Come on, let's be real here and think about how the media has handled prior viruses blowing across the ocean and other issues. It's a frenzy, right? It's a pay-per-click business, no different than we're dealing with here, Jack, is that you want to drive as many eyeballs as you can. They did it with H1N1 and there was hysteria. They did it with SARS and swine flu and all these different things. Every time, Ebola, whether or not it's true or not, they really whip everybody up into a frenzy. People go to their Costco's and they buy their toilet paper, they go crazy. What do you think it's going to be like when we get through COVID? What do you think it's going to be like when CNN or Fox News or whomever it is that's covering it, and we get a little blip of another disease, another virus, something else that's coming? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to be an all-out panic. And everybody knows this is going to be the case. The governments now are saying it, and they're saying, you need to build infrastructure, schools, governments, airports, arenas. You need to build infrastructure. This is the future, right?
It's interesting.
The WHO says it. It's the future. This is an infrastructure play.
It's actually this makes a lot of sense because essentially, I think for the next outbreak, whatever, there's always something around the corner, right? And we've seen this every couple of years, right? It's almost increasing. It's an increasing pace of disease. I think for the next one, it's going to be like you touched on it. It's going to be insane panic because people have already been conditioned with this COVID thing. For the next thing, whatever it's going to be, they're going to even be more scared. So
it won't matter what the evidence is. And that's the thing. I mean, COVID, there's a lot of people. I mean, even now there's misinformation. There are people that we deal with it every day. You read about it every day. People don't believe it is what it is. I mean, we deal in the medical community. We had, I'm not going to speak out of turn, and I almost did, but I will tell you, we have somebody very close to the company who we were basically, we had expected we're not going to make it. They had a miraculous recovery there in Europe. This is real. This is real. You want to be tested. If it costs you $5 or $10 extra on your cruise ship fee, or your ticket, or your airport, or whatever it is, You want to pay it. You want to know that you're going to be safe. And just as I was talking with you before, antibody tests will be the next thing. After a vaccine is actually deployed and it is scaled, we're going to need to know that people have actually had it. If we're going to allow them back in, we're going to allow a normal course of a business. There's going to need to be reporting. There's going to need to be testing. The world's a big place. And as long as there are people coming off planes from other areas that we don't know whether or not they've been vaccinated, we still have a problem of variants of COVID or these things coming in. Testing is not going anywhere. Screening, testing, and infrastructure for infectious disease and healthcare, connected healthcare like this is the future. It's why the market's telling you that.
I tell you, it's interesting, yeah, because this is something that people kind of really need to understand. We have a comment here. I just want to pull this up. Where is this? Okay, I think we touched on before was that. Again, this is going to become kind of like infrastructure standard thing because they realize that in this infectious disease can really shut down an economy, shuts down everything, and so they're going to want.
We're living it now.
Essentially, you're going to be like a piece of infrastructure for airports, almost like, I don't know, electricity or whatever. I mean, not
like a defibrillator on the wall in a hockey arena. You're going to need to have systems in place. This is not a temporary situation, and we're going to need to be set up for the future. We can't survive. Big part of this is getting everybody back to work. A big part of this is the mental health of people not being able to work and socialize. I personally, from being as close to this as I am, we haven't even begun to experience the consequences on mental health and what's happened. We have to get the country, our citizens, our businesses back to work. The only way we do that is with screening, effective screening, continual screening, a deployment of a vaccination, and making sure we have the systems in place for the future, because this won't be the only time this happens.
Okay, Clark, we have like about 6 minutes left here. So let's wrap up very quickly. The details on how much can you make from this airport, and what other airports do you have in the pipeline to put your system in?
So I'll just share the general revenue model. General revenue model is we get paid per test. We provide the infrastructure to run these tests. Airports or large clients are not putting these systems together because they want to run a couple hundred tests a week. Look around the world. Look at the restrictions that are in place. You can't travel places unless you have a negative test. How are they going to do that? If they rely on a PCR, it's going to take 2 days, or you're going to be standing in a waiting area where you don't know if you're standing next to somebody else who already has it. So the numbers will come out. The other engagements that we have will come out. This is the beginning for us. As we announced in September, we just started going commercial. We started scaling. We just capitalized to do that. We just announced with one of the most conservative organizations, certainly one of the most conservative governments from a healthcare and regulatory perspective in the world, and we are working with the biggest airport. So stay tuned, keep watching. This is only the beginning, and our system is scalable in a very big way, and we expect that to come clear by what comes out.
Okay. Question here. Okay, so what is the relation between FIO, because they developed the technology, right? The FIO.
So originally FIO did the African deployments, the South American deployments. We have a joint venture with them. We basically came in and wrapped our infrastructure around to rapidly adapt this system for COVID use, assist them with doing that, and then help on the commercialization and the scale out. Obviously, there's a difference in business when you are launching and you're essentially backpacking or setting up pop-up labs in really difficult places to work in around the world from a healthcare perspective. In Canada, in the US, there are major regulatory requirements of operating as a medical device, of handling people's data, of scaling that out, of actually taking the device and running it like an assembly line where you can test over 100 people an hour on a device by running it through our assembly line, capturing that data, reporting it to the government. So our deal, as we've announced, is we started a joint venture together, of which we own 33 or something percent at present. We have a number of royalties on them that will come out in our financials. From a strategic and a competitive perspective, we don't disclose certain things around our pricing model. You can deduce what you will from our financials and from other announcements as they come out. But I can tell you that the engagement is strong. It's just the beginning of what we're doing, and it's a big part of Relay's portfolio and what we're going to commercialize this year and deliver on and build value on for our shareholders.
Okay. So I guess we're gonna people saying like, how come this has not hit the mainstream? Like, why has this not been like a
So yesterday morning we were on Global News. The morning before CTV, we're out with the Star and the Globe here. These are articles and newspapers and stuff in Canada. I think there'll be more. You'll see. I mean, we've had it's been nonstop media. It's since this happened. So I think you'll see that there'll be much more. But if you Google Relay Medical and airport or COVID testing, you're going to come up with quite a few articles, and you're going to see some more media probably go viral next week. There's more developments. We'll be announcing when the testing commences. We'll be announcing when the contract concludes. We'll be announcing further deployments and partnerships, both here in Canada and the U.S. There's a lot happening. You got to remember these things. The COVID, the arrival of COVID is a new thing. The airport pre-COVID never thought about testing, actually doing medical testing inside an airport where you have 50 million people come through per annum of different countries, different backgrounds, different customs. There was never a thought about, okay, yeah, let's open up a lab in the airport. These are all very new things. So they don't have the licenses. The federal government doesn't know how to handle the data. There's all sorts of complexities. Now, thankfully, the system's moving in the right direction. The regulatory stuff is moving in the right direction. And that's why we're seeing, and we will see more news on commercialization, big scale out, and better testing methodologies for Canadian U.S. citizens.
Great question. When are we going to see this stuff reflected in the numbers?
Yeah, so I think I think it will happen pretty fast, and I think that like this is funded partially by the federal government, but it's we're not working for free. This is a very worthwhile engagement for us, and we've only really spoken to in public dissemination about what's happening in the next 90 days, not what happens after, and so you're going to have to stay tuned. Mum's the word. Just like with our halt, the airport wanted to go live on announcing. They're under pressure from the public, the media, the government. Everybody's under pressure to get solutions in order. They want to come out and show that they're addressing them, and that's why they're partnering with us to do it.
Okay, Clark, let's wrap up on one last thing. Is that Relay is much more than just this testing platform. You have other core technologies. I mean, absolutely. I know that you have things that are in development. Can you kind of give us a snapshot of like what else do you have like in the pipeline besides the testing platform, and what's kind of what's the vision for Relay 2-3 years out? Because it seems like you're a device company, diagnostics company that goes beyond just one.
I'd love to. So really what got us here was the pharma track. We've been developing this medication adherence. I'm getting into the jargon, but essentially you've got 60 million Americans. They don't take their prescription medication. Somebody pays for it. It's the insurance companies, it's national healthcare organizations, it's whatever it is. And they want to know why does 50% of the company or the country not take their medication? Why are they getting sicker? Why are they going to the hospital? There is no data feedback when you go, Jack, I'm sure you've been to the doctor in the last, whatever, you're a healthy guy, but they prescribe you medication. Very rarely do you ever come back and talk to your doctor about, did you take it on time in full? Did you take it with food? Did you take it? Whatever. We've developed a system that monitors all that. There's no friction. It's live monitoring. It uses computer, machine learning, machine vision to identify the medications as they go in. We've got predictive AI behind it. It's scalable. It's sellable. It's affordable, and it's something that the insurance companies, the national healthcare groups, big pharma wants. They need data. It's all about data. It's all about bolting on additional services and understanding how people consume their medications, their pharmaceuticals, which is really at the core of who we are as a westernized civilization. Is that what are we doing with our drugs and why are we getting sicker? we developed a system. It's really hand in hand with what we're doing with FioNet.
It uses the same platform, right?
Basically, same backend, same machine learning. You're teaching a camera to interpret a test. You're teaching a camera to interpret your medications and to predict when you may or may not be taking them. This is actually one of the technologies here which has been deployed. We're actually doing studies back in February, March.
Let's see that. Can you show that again?
Commercial work. So it's you can see it on our website. So what this is this is essentially a station that allows you when people, when they take 5 or more prescription medications a day, which is, as I say, there's over 60 million Americans that do it. They bundle their medication. They take them multiple times a day, some with food, some without food. Some have to be done refrigerated. Some have to be done this way, that way. It's very tough to find a holistic management system where it's not an alarm system. It's not that their phone goes off every hour and reminds them they've got to take their blood pressure medication. It's about fitting in with their day-to-day, having no drag, and just recording how they're doing it, and gently predicting or reminding them how to take their medication better, and providing that feedback to the groups that can, the pharmaceutical companies, the national healthcare companies that can then maybe incentivize their users to take their medication properly, and then the insurance company has some benefit or whatever it is. Basically, we're looking at breaking that down. We had to really slow up on operations there because, of course, there was no trials, testing, or studies being done during COVID with sick people testing out new technologies. This is something that we are rapidly approaching commercialization, hopefully this year, and we'll have some disclosure around that. We'll have some major developments sooner rather than later. We are about data. We are about providing solutions that people want to participate in. We're not about breaking the system, making waves. We're about fitting solutions in, collecting that data, monetizing the data, monetizing the per use, and ultimately improving the experience for everyone. That's at the core of what we do, and we are going to apply our technologies to as many verticals as we can properly address and generate revenue in each of those verticals. We're showing that now. We have had a massively successful pivot in what happened with our business, with what we've done now with FioNet. You're going to see the validation there, and that's really going to prop up the next few things to come out from us on some of the other assets. And I can tell you, we had a decent we stuck around valuation wise for a couple of years, not a whole lot of trading, doing the hard work. We're now in the process, or we're now in the position to start communicating it. We are cashed up. We have the finances to execute on these things, and these are big ticket items that address very large markets. And I'll leave you with one more thing, just not to promote too much, but look at what's happened with connected medical technologies like this, with home medicine, with web medicine, with all these things.
This is the hottest thing right now.
Unbelievable. They've went exponentially since COVID. They grew insanely under H1N1. I think they bumped up by 300-400%. The Trump administration and the Trudeau administration both came out in early COVID days and said, look, we're going to introduce ways to subsidize the use of home medical care. This is what we do. We were built really for what happened this last year. It's reflecting in our share price now. You can see it based on the investors that we've had come in, and buckle up, because we're going to be advancing all of these things very aggressively in the near term here, and I think it's going to be entertaining and of major value to the shareholders and the guys that are supporting us.
Fantastic. So it seems like there's a lot of this is not a one-trick pony. This is even though this pony is a multi-billion-dollar pony, the airport testing infrastructure.
We got a stable of ponies. We've got a stable of ponies, and they are cashed up.
Stable of unicorns. I like the
stable of. That's it. Okay, I like. You know what? And I think you're. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong, Jack. So we're going to have more disclosure on that. We're really focusing now on communications. We've got some great ad groups that are working with us. We're really going to tighten that up. We've been a little too techy. We've been a little bit of that science company for a couple of years. People can't just understand, it's very technical stuff. We are really drilling down to getting our messaging out there. And I think there's a tremendous amount of value people don't know about yet. And you're going to help us, obviously, demonstrate that with your hard-hitting questions and keeping us honest.
It's the audience, not my question.
That's good. They're relentless. They're relentless.
All right, Clark, thank you. We'll catch up with you on the next big news.
Thanks, Jack. That's wonderful. Have a great weekend, guys, and
Take care.
appreciate you tuning in.